Are you an introvert that enjoys time spent alone? Well, if you are, then trust me, I get it. I enjoy my alone time too. At the same time, there's a very thin line between time spent alone and when we choose to fully isolate ourselves. In today's episode of Quiet Voice, Fearless Mind, we're going to talk about some of the dangers of isolation and some of the importance of having relationships as an introvert. Stay tuned. Welcome to Quiet Voice, Fearless Mind, a show where we help introverts and aspiring leaders to become who they want to be. My name is Terrence Lee, aka the Introvert Leader. Welcome to the show. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform, make sure to rate and leave a review for the show. Also follow the show as well for future updates. And if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to share and subscribe and like the video as well. So if I'm being honest, for a long period of my life, I used to think I could get through life alone. It's not that I didn't have any friends. It's not that I didn't have any acquaintances or anything like that. But if I was really going through an issue or if I was really going through a problem, I would just try to handle it myself. I would just try to do it. A lot of times, if I was going through a tough time, I wouldn't tell anybody. I would just try to fix it on my own. And you might be listening to this and you might be similar. You might be somebody that has an introverted personality and you feel like you spending time alone is the best thing to do. But there's danger in that because what I realized for myself was there's a very thin line between spending time alone and being with our thoughts and completely isolating ourselves from the world. So what's the difference and how do we make sure we don't isolate ourselves and put ourselves in a bad space? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Introverts are too quiet and too weak to lead. Have you ever heard this before? Well, my name is Terrence, and for years as an introvert, I didn't think I had what it took to be a leader. What I learned was being an introvert is my superpower. If you want to learn how to have success as an introvert, then go to quietvoicefearlessleader.com to learn more. So I'm going to be honest, this episode today is going to be a little different. I don't have all of my points written out or all of my different notes that, I want to talk through for the episode today like I have in some of the past episodes of Quiet Voice, Fearless Mind. There are a few things that have happened here over the past 24 hours. And then this time of year is a difficult time of year for me. So I'm just going to speak to some of those things. So I just really got a lot on my chest, and there are things that I feel like are going to help with the point and hopefully help somebody out there. So if it's okay with you all, I'm just going to speak to those things and we'll just see where the episode takes us. All right. So I found out that my coworker died yesterday. So I logged in this morning and there was an email from somebody I work with. And they were basically saying that, my coworker had passed away from cancer. And, at the time of this recording, it's February 2023. And, at the end of every year, I work in the defense industry. And at the end of the year, we always have a few weeks off. We basically take off for winter break for about 2 to 2.5 weeks. And, prior to the break, and this is somebody that literally I talk to every day. Like, some people, they work with somebody and they see them every now and again. They talk every now and again. Now, this is somebody that I literally talk to every single day. And we went into the break in December. And when we came back from the break, the first week in January, he didn't come back. And, people were asking, it's like, hey, where's Matt? Is Matt going to come back? And nobody really said anything. We weren't really hearing a lot of news. And a few weeks ago, I had heard through a coworker that he wasn't doing too well. And I was trying to find out, well, what does that mean? Like, what's going on? I never really could find out. And then come to find out about a week and a half ago, I found out that he had cancer. To which, you never know like what that means, right? Like how far along things are, or where things are in the process and everything like that. So, I just said, okay, well, I'm getting to praying, I'm going to be praying for him, praying for his healing, praying for his family and everything like that. And anything I can do to help out, I'm going to do that. Well, fast forward to this morning, and I got the news that, he had passed away. And it hit hard, because there's some people that that you either work with or you're associates with or your friends. And some people just, and it sounds cliche, I know this sounds super cliche, but some people just have a good spirit, like when you're around them, when you're talking to them, no matter how hectic things are, no matter how crazy things are, because my industry can get crazy. It can get like busy, tight deadlines, a lot of visibility on you, a lot of pressure, like all of that. And this guy's demeanor and the way he carried himself and the way that he spoke and everything at all times was first class. Like, he was one of those guys, things could just be crazy, insane. And he was like chill, the way he talked, the way he carried himself, his smile, his laugh, intense situations, just a cool guy. Like, I don't know any other way to describe Matt. So it really hit, and then, the email that was sent out, and it was talking about him, it was talking about his family and everything like that. And one of the things that really struck me was it talked about how he has 3 boys, which was very triggering for me, because a few years ago, I lost one of my best friends, and he also had 3 boys. Now, some of you listening to this, you might have read my book, Quiet Voice, Fearless Leader, and you might have heard the story of KB. So a few years ago, one of my best friends, he was working out at the gym, and while he was at the gym, he passed out. After he passed out, he was taken to the hospital, where he later passed away a few days later. So this was a few years ago, and I'll never forget. It was in February, and my boy T. Finn that I went to college with, he had reached out to me, sent me a message, and he's like, "Hey, have you heard about KB?" And of course I'm like, "No, like what do you mean?" I had literally just talked to KB through text like a few days before that. We were talking about going golfing. We had always been, talking about, man, we need to go golfing sometime. He lived in the Austin area. I live in Dallas. And, we were just trying to connect. And he tells me that he had passed away. And it didn't even seem real. I was like, what do you mean? And then I started getting calls from some of my other friends from college. We're texting back and forth. We end up on a 3-way call. We're talking about it, talking about what we heard, all of this. And then the rest, the next few weeks were just like, seemed surreal. A few weeks later, I'm down in Austin for the funeral, for the service, everything. And I'm looking at somebody that literally, of the people that know me, and some of you listening to this, you may be similar. A lot of times I found with introverts, we have very tight circles. Like, we don't necessarily have tons of friends. A lot of times we'll care to have very quality relationships. And that's the kind of person I am. Like, when I think of the people that really know Terrence, the people that outside of the introvert leader, platform I do and the other things I do, people that really know me, he was one of those few people that really know me, like the real me, right? A super funny dude, like hilarious. We could sit around and just laugh for hours. I got so many stories. There was a time like we were in college, and literally I might have had like $30 to my name. He probably had 40 to his. And me, him, and my boy Harold, we drove from Tallahassee, Florida to New Orleans. And we made the decision to do it on a Friday night at like 4 a.m. We were like, hey, it's Mardi Gras weekend. Why don't we drive to New Orleans? Like, crazy, right? I think we were 21. And we drive to New Orleans, broke, and had the time of our lives. Like, I mean, that was one of the best trips I've ever, which to this day I tell people, I know money doesn't necessarily equal happiness, because some of the best times I've ever had was when I was broke, but that's another episode for another day. But anyway, point being, this is somebody that really knew me. It was a relationship that I can't replace. It's something that it's a few years later, and every time I talk about it or think about it, it still hits me the same. And he also, like I said, had 3 boys. Shout out to Cole, Keith, and Kai. Uncle T loves you all. And they have an amazing mother. Shout out to Ashley. So, relationships. There are certain people that, when I think about my life, I can't really think about my life without them, you know? Just people that really have looked out for me, people that I know have my best interests at heart, people that genuinely care. There are a few people you get like that in your life, and you may not get a lot of them, but the ones that you do, you cherish them. And KB was one of those people for me. He was a big Jets fan. That was always his team. So we used to talk a lot of trash about football. I was a Cowboys fan, unfortunately. They haven't won a title in almost 30 years. But he was a Jets fan. You know, they hadn't won a title in even longer than that. So we used to like crack jokes on each other, and we would just go back and forth. And our other friends who had their football teams, you know, it was a whole thing. But one thing that I admired about him is he was always loyal. Like, it didn't matter if the Jets sucked. It didn't matter. That was his squad. That was his team. So, you know, to honor him, one thing that I've always done since his passing is I wear the Jets hat. You know, so I wear the Jets hat, or I keep it around. It's just, I don't know. I know he would be happy, because, you know, I would have never wore a Jets hat or had a Jets hat around when he was here. So I'm sure he's probably smiling down. So I just do that as a tribute to him, to show him love. But, you know, I'm talking about all this. I know I'm ranting, and I know I'm going all over the place right now. But relationships are very important. And I came to a point where I realized that I can't do life alone. I can try. I enjoy my alone time. Like, the definition of being an introvert is recharging alone, right? We need time to ourselves. That's true. We need time with our thoughts. That's also true. We need solitude, because in solitude, it brings us a certain freedom that we just don't get when we're around groups of people, or even around another person if it's just one. Sometimes we just need to be to ourselves. That is all very true. But on the flip side of that, I've experienced isolation. I've experienced times where I was by myself and I was trying to figure everything out alone. I've had some dark times, man. Like, around the time that I started the Introvert Leader platform, just a little bit before that, I had a rental property that I had purchased. And when I bought that property, I bought it and I thought it was a great deal. Thought it was going to be, you know, amazing, right? And long story short, there ended up being a shooting at the property and somebody passed away. And I lost a bunch of money, and it was a whole ordeal. And the thing about it is, I didn't even care about the money. Like, that wasn't the thing. It's like a life was lost at a property I owned. Like, somebody lost a life, and that it haunted me. It was terrible, and I held that in. I held all of that in, like all of that hurt, all of that pain, all of that confusion. I tried to just deal with it myself. And that was probably the worst thing I could have done. And so you're probably listening to this, and I don't know if you're somebody that when you go through a situation, you try to deal with it by yourself. Or you may be somebody that does reach out to friends or reach out to people, but are you reaching out to the right people? See, some people, I feel like when you reach out to them, when you need them, some people are really going to hear you, and other people are going to just try to give this like unsolicited advice, like, well, what you should do is this, what you should do is that. Like, and sometimes you don't want to hear that, honestly. You know, like when somebody loses a loved one or somebody goes through a hard time, a lot of times they just want to be heard. They just want somebody to hear them. That's it. You know? And if you don't have anyone like that in your life, really think about that. Think about who are some people in my life that I know if I go through a situation or if something happens, they are going to be there for me. Like, these are the people I can count on, right? Those are the relationships that are so important and so huge. And I would encourage you to not let that relationship go. And if you have somebody like that, like, don't let too much time go by without you telling them how much you appreciate them, without you telling them you love them, without you telling them, or you don't even necessarily have to tell them anything. You could just call and just laugh, like share a funny memory that you all have together, like whatever it is. But these things are so important. So time spent alone is okay. Solitude is needed, but we have to be careful. We have to be careful that we don't go into isolation. See, when we go into isolation, it leads to several things, or can lead to several things. One is depression. I've been depressed and didn't even realize it. I just wasn't diagnosed, but I've definitely been depressed. You can begin to self-doubt. You start doubting yourself. You start doubting if you'll ever get past this hump or whatever this thing is that you're going through. And you don't have someone to talk to get through it. Isolation is very dangerous. You know, we can't use the term introvert. We can't say that, oh, I'm an introvert, so I just don't do people. I can't ever be around people. Like, that's one of the big things you see, right? And, you know, and it's funny. There's a lot of funny memes out there. There's a lot of things that, you know, there's all kind of introvert memes that talk about not being around people that, you know, you get a good laugh out of them. But when you're really in a situation, or even if you're not in a situation, like if you just need companionship as human beings, companionship and being around people and sharing ideas and laughing and talking and having conversation, these are healthy things. These are healthy things with the right people, of course, but it's healthy to do these things. So let's not just say that, well, we're introverts, and so that means that we don't talk to people, we don't do this, we don't do that. Let's assess the people in our circle. Let's assess our relationships, and let's see, hey, who are the people that are in my circle that bring me joy? Who are the people in my circle that I know I can go to them? They can come to me. We have a strong connection. We have a bond. We have something that I don't have with other people. See, when you have people like that, do not let that go. Trust me. I know what it is to hit bottom. I know what it is to feel alone, to really feel alone. Spending time alone versus feeling alone is different. When you feel alone, it's not good. It's not a good feeling. I don't want to go back there. And some of you might be listening to this, and I realize that you might be there right now. At the end of the day, just don't isolate. Don't isolate. Because life is hard. I mean, there are so many things. We have thousands of thoughts that go through our head every day. Thousands of thoughts. And some of those thoughts can harm us. And especially if we're isolating and we're by ourselves and we don't have someone else to pick us up or someone else to tell us that they believe in us or to just be there to be ears to listen, then it can be hard. It can be hard. All right. So listen, I really appreciate you all's patience with me today and let me get this off. So I want to dedicate this episode to Matt Burleson, To the family, if you ever hear this, I want you to know that Matt was an amazing soul, an amazing person, and a great guy. And I also want to dedicate this to my brother KB. And to Cole, Keith, and Kai. To Ashley, and to the entire Breathway family. I love y'all. So listen, I hope you enjoyed the episode today. If you're somebody that typically isolates themselves, hope you found this to be insightful and helpful. And, you look at your inner circle, look at the people you're around, and really try to build quality relationships with quality people, okay? So before we get off the episode, I just want to leave with a quick quote from Michelle Obama. The quote is very simple. It says, "Choose people who lift you up." Choose people who lift you up. So the saying says that we become like the 5 people we spend the most time with. So make sure you're around positive people with positive energy, people that lift you up, relationships that are building, relationships that are not taking, right? Because it helps us so much. When we isolate and we're by ourselves, we put ourselves in a very tough spot. We can be introverts, and at the same time, we can have quality relationships with quality people, okay? So until next time, there's only one you, there's only one life. So make it count. God bless.